My name is Senaka Weeraratna. I'm an attorney at law and I'm also the former honorary legal consultant to the Sri Lanka Law Commission on Animal Welfare Legislation. I drafted the Law Commission Animal Welfare Bill for the members of the Law Commission. We are here today united with one aim: to prevent the enactment of an inhumane and draconian bill of parliament disguised as the Animal Welfare Bill, but in full the antithesis of the original Animal Welfare Bill proposed by the Law Commission and later verbatim duplicated in the private members' bill tabled by Venerable Weeraratna in Parliament. It was in October, and there is a bill of Parliament with all full details of the bill that is available on the internet, which I have a copy now, and that was published in October 2010 under the name of Venerable Ratna as a proposer. Now, I'm repeating here, but I would like to repeat here the very nice statement by Dr. Senaka Gandhi, and I think it's very relevant. She says that this bill, we are all against this bill 2022, and she puts it in a very eloquent form. This act should be one of the finest in the world because you could learn from the mistakes made by the Indian Prevention of Cruelty to Animals Act of 1960. However, in the last 6 decades, we have done much to improve it by bringing an additional acts. Instead, you are bringing in an act which will increase the suffering of animals and make the animal welfare movement, which is growing fast, much weaker. None of the amendments to the Act of 2022 is going to help animals. They are clearly going to help the lobbies that exploit animals cruelly. The Act exempts animals slaughtered for food from being in its ambit of protection. Anyone who has seen the way slaughterhouses treat animals, the way pigs are stabbed repeatedly after being kept in miserable conditions and have their hair pulled out manually to be sold for paintbrushes before killing them, the way chickens are carried upside down and have their throats slit while their heads are squeezed under feet, to see calves crowded into trucks and repeatedly hammered to death, to see cows being injected daily by a drug called toxin so that they go into labor pains twice a day and their milk gushes out. It is useless to make an act protecting dogs and cats and guinea pigs when 90% of the violence on animals is on farm animals. This is utterly retrograde. He's talking of this act, this bill. In India, all experiments on animals are forbidden in schools and college teaching centers, and the CSEA is a body that regulates any research that involves animals. Most experiments are now through computers. Your act exempts live animals in experiments from protection, allowing them to be used in teaching or any experiment without any regulation or thought of their well-being. There are international guidelines for accepting any research, and unless Sri Lanka adopts the 3 R's, replacement, reduction and refinement, and switches to alternatives, most of your research will not be accepted in science anywhere in the world. So we have a situation where, now she has given a red warning that even if you continue or conduct research using live animals for so-called experiments, you risk those results of those experiments being rejected by the international community because you are not being following the modern standards, the international standards, despite this primitive act, this inhumane act allowing you to do so. So it will be a waste of lives and it will be a waste of effort, both ways. Shame, and this is something that our government should be made aware of, that all these experiments, all the leeway given to the so-called scientists of this country to use live animals will not produce proper real results, because the international community will reject them because they have been used in animals by not following the guidelines, despite this act allowing such research. So it's a shame. It will bring another international slur on the reputation of Sri Lanka. And this is something these people who have brought in, lifted the precautions, lifted the protections we have given in the 2006 Animal Welfare Bill, do not seem to have known. And also another thing that is very important for people in Sri Lanka, Maneka Gandhi has said it beautifully. India has banned the use of animals in cosmetics. We have even stopped cosmetics from being sold that have been experimented abroad. But now you have, in this new act, allowed the use of live animals in experiments on cosmetics. Are you going back 30 years? Do you want Sri Lankan monkeys to eat 50 lipsticks at a time till they die, or rabbits to have hairspray put into their eyes in the dry test till they break their neck struggling against the pain? So this is what Maneka Gandhi has said, and she has said it much better than anyone else so up to now. And if this country, the leaders who have to follow some of the guidelines given by India, I mean that has always been the trend, we will also lose the sympathy and support we are getting from India when we are in difficulty. So it is not a decision for the draftsman of this, but it's a decision for the lawmakers of the highest level not to ignore the voices for reason and compassion coming from India. So I am told, it also talks about the cultural events. Cultural events also, now say we have animal sacrifice. We are talking of Perahera, but Perahera, animals are injured, animals are affected. But more importantly, there are animals who are being killed in so-called animal sacrifice, which the Buddha condemned. Animal sacrifice, which is used for in certain religious festivals, in their hundreds. It's animal not sacrifice, it's animal genocide. And we don't say anything. So you are using elephant, and I'm telling, I'm not in favor of elephants being abused, but some people are using the elephants as a pretext to ridicule Buddhism as a cultural practice, to put Buddhism to shame, and it's happening all the time, as if elephant is the only animal valuable enough for the society to take an interest in. So many. Actually, the most abused animal in this country is the cow, the cattle. If you go to the slaughterhouse, you will see. So anyway, Maneka Gandhi has said, for all, that this act allows and condemns animals to permanent suffering without legal redress, without pretending to do the opposite. So anyway, now I'm coming back to my presentation. This has to be said, has to be recorded. That's why I read it out. Now, this booklet, I authored it, but it was greatly helped by Champa. Champa and I should really take credit for this. Without Champa Fernando's input and massive effort, this would have never seen light of day. Now, this is a comparative study of two bills of parliament. The Law Commission proposed bill, which was duplicated in a private member's bill by Venerable Ratana in 2010, and a cannibalized version. And this is the cannibalized version of that bill in the 2022 Bill of Parliament, meant to make the meat trade happy and legalize crimes, cruelty on animals. Actually, this 2022 version enshrines cruelty, gives it a legal form, enshrines cruelty with a legal umbrella. It had never happened before. So that's how we must describe it. I'm saying that publicly. The drafter, the man who has introduced the amendments, is not a man that has empathy for animals. And I'll tell you why. And one good reason, because I was instrumental in doing the 2006 bill, and you can see in the functions of the authority, there were 21 items, and they are all the ones that will bring solace, that will bring respect for the civilization of this country. And I'll tell you, this is something I must put on record. I'll mention 3 or 4. These are beautiful words which I put, and it was all agreed by the Law Commission. That is the functions of the authority. And these are 4 provisions which I'll read out. To foster kindness and compassion and responsible behavior towards animals, one of them. Second one is to advise and assist government agencies, provincial authorities, local authorities, non-governmental organizations, animal welfare society, religious institutions, and the general public to coordinate campaigns against cruelty and to advise on any matter connected with animal welfare. Now, next one is to promote education. To promote education in relation to the human treatment of animals and the promotion of animal welfare. And to liaise and exchange information with foreign governments, international organizations, and animal welfare associations in other countries with respect to animal welfare and the prevention of all forms of animal cruelty. Now, these are beautiful words. All this has been removed. All this has been removed. And what we have, they have put 5 functions for the advisory committee. Only out of the 5, only 3 have to do with animal welfare. One is to advise the government, advise the minister how to do, on respect to conduct of experiments on animals, live animals. Shame. That's the way they have looked at this animal. They are trying to legalize, they are trying to put much provisions that will allow cruelty to animals and animal experiments. Now I must tell you, there's another issue, there are 2 more issues I will do. One is home slaughter. Now we put in the Law Commission Bill of Parliament a section on home slaughter, and that is very important. The whole purpose of the 2006 was to address slaughter conditions. Slaughter prior to slaughter and slaughter at the time, because much of the criticisms and the voices for animals was in respect to that the animals were badly done by in respect to slaughter. So England had stopped home slaughter campaign, and we took heed of that, and clause 38, and this is most important point, which is that we wanted to regulate slaughter and ban home slaughter. We said if you want to slaughter animals for religious purposes, then it must be done under controlled conditions. It must be done in a registered abattoir by people who are competent to slaughter animals. People with a certificate. You can't have blunt knives, you can't have women and children killing animals. So that was the purpose. And we said it can't be done in a public place. It can't be done in a private dwelling. All that we put is completely removed. The purpose of this 2022 is to completely silence, completely sideline improvement or reform of laws on slaughter. Last point I will tell you is this poultry. And these are the very dangerous ways that chicken don't get any protection. There are no voices for chickens. There are no voices for pigs. There are no voices for goats. Right? There are no voices for fish welfare. Nobody talks to them. So how can you say you have reverence for life when all the forms of life don't get any voice, don't get any moral attention? Only one animal gets most of the moral attention. That's the elephant. So I'm now going to tell you, I'll be brief on that. At least you should go on record. That is the chicken, the poultry. There's a special clause subclause in clause 18 that excludes poultry from any form of attention, any form of protection from this act. Poultry is a subject that is carefully manipulated to be outside the glaze of people of Sri Lanka. And newspapers never say anything. But in European countries, it is a subject of great interest because they are suffering in front of our eyes. And these are the abuse of chicken. Live shackle slaughter. Common method of killing factory farm chickens is known as live shackle slaughter. The chickens are hung upside down and their legs are forced into metal serves. So that is just mentioned. Then next one is forced molting. Forced molting, and that's allowed in this group. That is allowed. That is, you withdraw food. You can make an animal starve, because when the animal is starved and is made weaker, it's easy to execute it, kill, slaughter. And that is called forced molting. All this is described well. And there is said in this bill that you can withdraw they are prepared business by supplying food to animals. Next one is battery cages, worst form, all explained. And then you have debeaking animals. And then you have genetic manipulation. And these never ever get public attention. But I have made a study of this. I have incorporated this in outline. So these are basically my points. The good part have been covered, so I don't want to repeat what you said. But let me say my conclusion. My conclusion is, I said this. This is important. The Animal Welfare Bill of 2006 introduced a robust legal framework and powers for protecting all animals. It was destined to become an international gold standard, at least for countries in Asia. How we treat animals and the legislation we must have to govern animal welfare is a hallmark of a civilized society. Animals have always enjoyed a high priority status in our pre-colonial civilization, running for over 2,500 years. That has always been a source of pride for this nation and drew a lot of respect from the neighboring countries in South Asia and Southeast Asia. In ancient times, the inhabitants of this country, noble people, because of our caring and compassionate attitudes towards non-human living beings. This hallowed tradition should be continued. Today, we should be constantly looking to improve and refine our legislation in the area of animal welfare. It is a moral duty. Last line, the Animal Welfare Bill of Sri Lanka 2022 is a retrograde step. It must be defeated. Thank you.